Hello and welcome to my review of Lionel Asbo, State of the Nation. I'll try to keep this short as it's Friday night and I'm off out to start trouble with townies. Lionel Asbo was written by Martin Amis, who I have to admit I've never heard of prior to picking this up, despite having quite a lengthy body of work in both fiction and non-fiction. The plot follows two characters, both completely belonging to whatever you call that class beneath working class. Desmond Pepperdine describes himself as a romantic. That's debatable, but that he's working tirelessly to improve his condition is not. Nor is it deniable that his uncle and guardian, the Lionel Asbo of the title, is seemingly working just as hard to lower his condition. However, all that changes when Lionel wins the lottery and changes his life. He becomes something of a pseudo-celebrity, much like the real-life lotto lout Michael Carroll, who was a tabloid regular around the time this book was printed. And the book has fun at the expense of Z-list celebrities, the silicon-powered wannabe models, the footballers falling out of rehab, and sets Desmond up as the antithesis of them, content as he is with the more normal trappings of a family, wife, and steady income. But satire is a cruel mistress when it comes to the ease at which humanity is willing to debase itself. Written in 2006 and a shade over 10 years later, the satire here has lost its edge of exaggeration. Watch an episode of Jeremy Kyle, for example, when you'll see that this, with its stories of a family with 7 children and 7 fathers, feels rather more like non-fiction these days. However, from its arresting beginning and through Lionel's many arrests to its conclusion, State of England is generally entertaining and sporadically funny. In feel at least, it reminded me a touch of the first couple of Adrian Mole diaries, which I consider quite a compliment, though Adrian never did anything quite as reprehensible as Lionel and Des do here. But Amis is a very good writer of people. Few authors could take a character like Lionel and almost make him a lovable rogue. Almost. Other characters such as Des or the wannabe model poet Threnody have their moments as well. All swim dangerous waters between parody and caricature, but overall most of the people feel like real people. A particularly good example of this is Des, who is the lead character of Normality anyway. His early actions should be unforgivable, but he's the guy you're meant to root for. When his baby is born, Amis does a commendable job of showing Des's difficulties coping with and loving the girl. It would have been an easy aspect to leave out, but it adds a touch of humanity to Des and little Scylla, which adds a real sense of impending threat to the steady build-up of tension. Dismissing this book as throwaway satire would be an injustice. I felt compassion for the characters, genuine concern as the tension built, and I wished them all well. I even felt a touch of anger as tension built and Des, with his own sense of impending doom, did not act on it. Felt sadness when Scylla the Elder passed away. I was disappointed by Grace's unfair treatment, despite her not being someone I really should care for, given the things that she's done. This is Amis's great strength. He pulls all the right strings in all the right ways. Caring for somebody like Lionel should be utterly impossible. Amis achieves it for the most part. But Lionel's behaviour is so relentlessly cruel and unpleasant, he can't help but tip the scales against him. For differing readers, that may well be earlier or later in the book and result in a very different reading experience. Martin Amis is occasionally self-indulgent in his prose. This is not a particularly long book, something like 275 pages, and around the 200-page mark, it did begin to feel like it wasn't really going anywhere. And I'd still say the plot is not its strongest point. It's kind of meandering and episodic. Literal conflict only bubbles to the surface at the end. This is much more about characters than intricate plotting, but Des's rise, despite his crimes, is a stark contrast in itself to Lionel's aimless and self-destructive drifting. In conclusion, this book is periodically funny, thick with social commentary. The language is very coarse and definitely not for everyone. I'd recommend it to anyone who can deal with that and the very adult themes.